Can you hear me?
Yes.
Right. So, what was the last class we had? About the named query and criteria, right?
Yes.
And the last class we had a method actually GT. So the GT equal as get, but actually it is a greater. It is getting the values, but the condition it's writing is in the form of like greater. If the salary is greater than that, it will retrieve the value, or else not. You have seen the output. Just the method meaning is what? It's to have a greater. It's a condition like thing. Okay, and add order is nothing but like ascending order or descending order, you can say. Okay, so next today's concept will be HQL. So what is HQL? We have to see. So before going to HQL, like Hibernate was what? First of all, why we are learning Hibernate? The difference between JDBC and Hibernate was a one point. What's the major point you can say?
Database independent.
Right. But in the named query or the scalar or the entity, we were writing the SQL commands directly, right?
Yes.
So here these queries are also using the database dependent coding. In order to eliminate that entirely, we are using a concept known as HQL, Hibernate Query Language, you can say. Okay. So here you will see that it is a database independent. So here you won't be writing any query like select star from the table name. Instead of the table name, we will be using the class name. Means whatever the query you are writing is independent of the table. Suppose like what was the application we had? I'll consider the product application or employee. Any application you consider, I'll consider the product. So this product Hibernate. If you see, we have a Pojo class, the plain old object, Java object, where this product has the ID, product name, and the product price. And it's not mandatory that the same names must be used in the database. The database product.hbm.xml, you can have different names. Here you will be writing the mapping code, right? But the thing is, if the column names are different, like the table name is also different, in this product operation, when I write the command, like this was what? The show entity, right? So Hibernate configuration file, we can see product.hbm. Yeah, sure. It's nothing but select star from product. The product table name must not be the same thing as a class name. It might vary. So in order to overcome this, in HQL, you won't be writing any database name or the column name. You will be using the Pojo class or the class name as a table name and Pojo class variables as the column names. So if I want to write, I'll write the select star from product. And for this product, you can have a reference. Some X, Y, Z, anything, any reference you can have it. Okay. So here, and we can perform modifications on like objects directly, and it will be on multiple objects also. Okay. And we can perform single row or multiple rows at a time in this HQL. That's the first thing. And the next point, you have to understand that Hibernate query language is an own query language of Hibernate, and it is used to perform bulk operations, which is done on the programs actually. Okay. and whatever the object, like whatever the query you are writing, it's an object oriented form of SQL. That's the most important thing you can say. So what is it? HQL, what you are trying to do, it is a own query language of Hibernate, and it is used to perform bulk operations on Hibernate program. That's the first point, right? And what is the second thing you can say? An object oriented form of SQL. It's a structured query language, right? Is called HQL. So whatever we use the class name. Means what? Here we are going to replace. What you are trying to replace here? Table column names with Pojo class variable names, and table names with Pojo class names in order to get HQL commands. That's the third important point you can say. Okay. So next thing will be like how to write the things, or what are the advantages we can have. Simple thing, advantage is nothing but independent database, independent coding can be happening. Okay. And HQL also supports the inheritance and polymorphisms, like relationships. What are the relationships? We'll see in the next classes. Okay. So in this thing, we need to write the table name and the variable names. Sorry, like class name and the column names in the command, not the table name or not the column names. Okay. So there are different ways to construct a HQL select. So what are the different ways we have to see? Actually, we can perform three operations. So what are the three operations you can say? First, I can select all columns or select one or more columns or select one column. So this is what we can say. So we are writing this command, like select command, in multiple ways actually. So why we are seeing the select first means insert directly is not possible inside the HQL. Okay, directly you cannot write note point. What is note point? You can say we cannot write the insert into table name and the values. If you want, you can have that value 1 to value n. It is not possible actually. You cannot write that command. But another way of writing that insert command is there. What is that? We'll see. Before that, how to select the commands we are seeing. Okay. And if you want to write a condition also, we can apply the condition. Okay. So before the condition, first we need to retrieve the objects. So how to retrieve the object, how to create the values, that we have to see. Okay. So first thing, I'll select all columns. As you know, we already have seen the list. If you see the product operation here, what is happening? When I call the object, whatever the query we are creating, by using the query, if we call the list, I'll get a list of objects, right? And after getting the list of objects, here, just give me a second. Give me a second, the charging is over. Next one. So here, when I call the command, what is it command? Cure.list. I'll get a list of objects. As we know, collection is nothing but a group of individual objects. Okay, and by using these individual objects, we can iterate it either using the iterator, list iterator. Two advantages we have. Okay, so these are the things we have. This will be the same, but only the things which are different here is nothing but how to execute, like HQL. Come on. So first, what you have to do? We need to execute the HQL query on a database. So we need to create a query object. Okay. So we have a query. Query is an interface given in org.hibernate package. So if you want to see these things, you need to like search in the document itself. The document, if you go through the packages, in that what is query, what are the things we have, we can know. In advanced Java, we used to see the commands directly, right? Java p space Java x dot servlet dot HTTP servlet, you can say, or servlet request, we used to say. For this, you need to set the class path. But actually, for Hibernate, there are a lot of jar files. If you want to write the same command for the Hibernate also, you need to set the class path for all the packages. After setting the class path, then you can open this command prompt and write the query. Like write that particular thing, like Java p space, the package name and the class. So what methods you are having, you can get it. Okay? Instead of that, directly you can Google it also. Both the things are the same. So this is the first query object must be created. But it's an interface. As we know, we can't create the interface object directly, and we need a factory method. What is factory method? You can say a method which generates the object of a particular, what you can say, interface, class, or object. Okay? And among all these things, the most important thing is session interface. Like we had the connection, right, in the JDBC, where we used to have all the objects. The same way, we have session interface in Hibernate. So when you see the docs you can see directly. In this, you will find the methods. What methods we have? Like we are having the begin transaction, open session, and after opening the session, begin the transaction, do some work. This is a common syntax, right? From this, you can learn directly where you can call the methods save, persist, save or update, replicate, and here we have the delete, get, or the load. Okay, so these are the common things we have. And here the method summary, in the sense what is happening when I call the begin transaction, I got a transaction object, so it's a factory method, right? And we have cancel query, cancel the execution of the current query. So this contains the create criteria. We used to call the create criteria, right? Then we got the criteria object. Okay, and now the query. So what's the query? If I call the create query, I'll get the query object. So what is query for the given HQL query string? Means we can give a HQL query string, for that we'll get it. For that the return type is query. Whereas for the create SQL query, the same way we have SQL query. Like just now we have seen inside this, I guess, we got the named query whose typecast we are trying to do. Okay. So apart from that, we have this create SQL query also. So creating a query. So I need this method. What is method? Create query, which will return what? Which will contain what? HQL query string. Okay. So in interface known as session. So mostly by using the session object, we need to call the methods. What method I am calling here? Create directly query, and the return type will be the next part. What is the next part? Query. So I'll have to call this thing. I'll just say session dot create query. Is it the same? Yeah, create query, and whatever the query you want to have. So HQL command. This is object oriented SQL command. Okay, and after the HQL command we got the query itself. So return type is what? Query itself. So I'll have the query q equals to session dot create query. So in this way we got the object of the query command, you can say. Okay, and where is it create query? You have to understand that session interface contains a method known as create query, which generates object of query, which is a factory method, right? And here, after writing this, what is it? I have created an object, right? We need to call list method. Already you have seen the list method for executing. What you are trying to execute? An HQL command. Similar thing we have done it for all the other previous parts. The collection part, right? HQL command on database. So it returns a list object of java.util.list, right? So we have the list for the HQL also, but it's not generating the HQL object. It is generating the list object of the java.util.list itself. Okay? And what is the next thing we do? We need to use the Java util.iterator method or iterator interface to display the object. There's the next part you have. Okay, so that is what? Select all columns. For that we need to write that query. So before that, just the syntax we have followed here, right? By using the syntax we can write any command. Okay, and now how to write it practically in a program? We need to select a table. Already we have written three tables. What are the three tables? First is employee, second is student also, and the third is product. For the same product type we have created a product criteria. Okay, so we need to select the complete object from the database. So while iterating the collection object, we need to typecast it. The same here we have typecasting, right? Instead of all those things, I'll just remove the entire part. I'll select this here. I'll remove this thing. Hibernate configuration is there. Product HBM. Just remove the SQL query also. Though I'm not writing anything else. I need to write the commands. So what are the different ways are there? Three different ways of executing it. First is selecting all the columns, right? So this is nothing but complete object, you can say. Like we can say select star from like table name, right? Instead of saying that, we use a different syntax here. Okay, so we will select the complete object. Okay, and so while iterating, it converts, the internal conversion will be done. So the collection we need to typecast it to our Pojo class. So while iterating, we need to typecast each object into our Pojo class type only. That's the first point. And who is doing it? Internally, Hibernate converts each row selected from the table into an object of Pojo class. And Hibernate stores all these Pojo class objects into list. So while iterating the collection, we typecast into Pojo class type itself. That's the first thing you have to understand. Okay. So how to write this thing practically, that we have to see. Session object, this is a common thing for every program. This we don't change every time, right? Like class.filename, driver manager.get connection. After having that file, then you can say it as create statement and execute update, right? The similar way here we have these methods. Session.factory.open session means what? Similar to create statement, right? And build session factory means what? We connect to the database. So this is a connection object. And instead of class.filename, we are writing the configure. So these three are the common things which we used to use similar to JDBC. Okay. Now we need to process. What I'm processing? Query. What query? The HQL query, you can say. Okay. So I'll say session dot create. And here the spelling is wrong actually. Create query. This thing from product P. This is a command, that's it. You don't have to write a select star or the particular parts, right? Now, what I have to say, call the list method because the return type is a query, right? So what we need to do, we need to store it in a list object. So we got the list object, right? And from the list, you can iterate it directly. How to iterate it? Iterator it equals to L dot iterator. Now what is the iterator? It's a java.util, right? Don't select the previous things like the above things, bytecode or the swing XML. All those things are not required. Just java.util. The collection part is the most important thing here. Okay. And next thing will be what? Here we have to while. You have to write the while loop. So if you see the iterator thing, we have this access, right? We can see the iterator part. Java.util.iterator. So what is iterator you have? Has next. Has next in the like if you call this method, we can get the return type as boolean. Boolean in the sense whether the object like method contains object contains the value or not. We are checking it by using the has next method. And next method will return the element. Here element indicates the object type. By default it is an object type. If you typecast it, it will be getting converted. Okay. So in order to call these things, we have a iterator, a factory method, then the while loop. Inside the while loop, it.hasNext. You can say after that it.hasNext, what is happening? I can call a method. So what method we have to call? System.println. But instead of that, first we need to typecast it. From which object to which object you can say? From the HQL object, right? To the Pojo class. Pojo class in the sense what? What is Pojo class we have here in our example?
Product.
Product is the Pojo class. And what is the table name we have?
Correct. We don't worry about the table.
Yeah, here we are not worrying about the table, but the thing is it mandated to that table name and that column name must be same, like class name, project class name must be same?
Yeah.
It's not a mandatory thing inside this particular, what you can say, HQL part. So now I need to iterate it. But before iterating, what's the main point you have said? The complete object, while iterating, we need to typecast each object into our Pojo class type only. So what's the Pojo class? Product. So what I will do here, while iterating, I'll just say it as product p equals to product it dot next. There's an object type, right? Object type is getting downcasted to the product type. And as we know, system dot out dot println. What is the ID? So I'll say ID. So what is the ID we have? ID dot just we need to call a method. It's not of ID, we can say P. P dot get ID. In the same way, we need to call the name. Or the name you can say P dot get product name. Price. So what's the price you have? So this is the entire query we have written, we have executed, right? So iterator and the list other things we have used. I'm not creating any Pojo class or the Hibernate mapping or the configuration file. Already the table we have, the commands we have, we're just writing the HQL part in it. Okay? So try to execute this thing, select, run. So we got a query syntax error, product is not mapped. Which line you can say? From clause.java session factory helper. Yeah, product operation.java. So what it's saying, we need a product and the product must be mapped. We call the query.list it.next in the sense we are mapping it right. Build session.
Can you see the mapping file? .hp.
We are having the same mapping file. We didn't change it right. We just wrote the SQL query, that's it. Inside the product operation from product. Once you try to execute this again. Same exception, product is not mapped. Session factory query.list. Are we typecasting this? No, right? No need to typecast this.
Is there any table already existing in the database?
I guess we have it. Without that, we were not able to write the previous thing, right? But if that we are not able to connect, it's a different one. We have the records also actually. In the configuration file also, we just wrote the product.hbm. Okay, did I change any configuration file? Product.hbm.xml file. It's a file, same thing. And we have the name and the price thing, which must be mapped in the product.hbm. Nothing is new in this thing, just session.implement. Just the same product key, right?
Can you try from product without reference?
Without?
Without any reference, just try that, because everything is right in this test class.
Reference, we are not doing anything there. We're just writing the reference to implement it.
Yeah, but there is no problem with the main method. I think everything is fine with this.
The reference we use to call the name. Like if we are using a column, then we use a reference.
Yeah, use the capital letter, capital P.
Oh, actually I'm mapping with the product class, right?
Yes.
So here is the product class. Copy the thing and we are mapping with the product. Product, the spelling is correct, right? Yeah. The mapping also, you can write the reference or not. There is no issue actually. Now it will come because we are writing the database independent code, right? Where we are not using any table. And previously what I wrote, the product P is small. So what it indicates, it's a table name. I'm not writing any table, I'm writing the class name, right? That's the reason the P is capital. Okay? The slight change in that. So this is what I'm selecting complete objects. Complete object in the sense what? All the columns, all the rows. Okay? Next thing is what? We can select one or two columns for this particular query. One or two columns operation. So while iterating, same thing, we need to typecast each object into array of object value, because internally the Hibernate will typecast that to array of object. So array of object will be returned. So if you see here, I just have to write select. What I'm writing p.id. Just the thing is, we are not using the table column names. We are using the Pojo class. So p.id, and the same way, what I have to use? P.product underscore name or price. I'll just write the name itself. Okay. So p.id comma p.product name from product P. That is the thing we have to select. Okay. Now I can't select this thing, right? I can't convert, or I just comment this part. I'll remove this. Yeah. So what you have to do, whenever I'm saying it.next, it's an object array. Means I need to create an object of array like O equals to, in this thing we need to typecast that into object of array type, right? And array in the sense what we can use the index, right? So directly the first index indicates the first thing. Like here, p dot id is indicated by the 0, and p dot product name will be indicated by the 1. So I'll just say id equals to plus o of 0. That's it. And plus after that I'll just say it as name. It's a product name itself. Just I'll call it as o of 1. Give a semicolon. That's it. So we are not implementing anything else. Like it will be converted internally to object array. That's the reason we are just typecasting to the object array itself. Okay. If you typecast to the POJO, it will give exception. It cannot be mapped. Click on the product operation. Run this part. Then you will get the ID and the names. So this is what we can say it as object array. Okay. And if you want to have it to the POJO type class, it is not possible directly in this. For 1 or 2 columns operation, right? So this is what 1 or 2 column operation. And what is the next thing you can say? 1 column operation. So while iterating, we need to typecast it to class type. Means what is the class type here? Suppose I'm having p dot id. What is that p dot id here? What type we can say? DSC of product. So id is of number, right? Means integer in this thing. So select p dot id from product p, right? Suppose if I'm running the same thing, I'm executing it directly. It's giving the exception, right? The integer cannot be cast to object type. Means whatever the thing it's coming, it's an integer type. How can we say? Because id is a number in the database. So directly integer of I equals to integer, and after the integer what you write? it dot next. So each object like value we have to get it. So how to get those things? We have this integer, right? Inside the line, integer part is there. So inside the integer we have a method known as int value. So what's the method name here? Int value will return the integer from the object, because I need the integer, right? So what is it I have to call? Int value. So integer value will be returned. So I have to call it as what? id I dot, I just have to call init value. From integer it will convert to the int. Save this thing and run the. So what I got the integer values, right? So that's a 3 different operations and 3 different ways we have to follow. The first thing is retrieving all the objects by selecting all the complete object. While iterating, we need to typecast it to the POJO class. And when I am trying to iterate for the 1 or 2 columns, I need to have the array of object. Without that, I can't retrieve the value. And for a single column operation, we need to iterate it by using the typecast into the class type. So what is the class type is there that we require to convert it. Okay. So these are the things we have for the HQL commands select. So 3 different ways you have the select command, you can say. Okay. Understood? Any doubts still now? Anyone?
No.
Is it clear what is HQL means?
Yes.
What is HQL? What is the advantage of HQL now? Hello, can you hear me?
It is database independent queries. So we
Okay.
can connect to the any database and we can just run that. And moreover, like HQL is we are performing everything on the POSO class.
Okay. That's it. If I want to write the condition, is it possible to write the condition directly here?
What do you mean?
Like I need to select only the 1026.
Yeah, we can write like some conditions like where.
Okay. So how to pass the value? Directly you can pass the value?
Just like the same thing, p.id, the same thing we need to pass. Actually, we can use two type of things there. We can pass dynamically and we can pass normally.
Come again?
We can pass dynamically too.
So we pass dynamically?
Not sure, but if we are trying to send it directly, there is no point of writing HQL, but it has to ask from the user, right?
Fine. So yeah, dynamical in the sense we need the when coming to servlets, we used to retrieve the value from the HTML. Those HTML values you have to transfer it.
Yes.
Okay. The dynamic values will come in that particular part. But here, just what I'm saying, from product. Okay. What I'm trying to write here, where p.id equals to, if I write directly 1026, is it fine? Will it retrieve? That we have to see.
Yes.
Click on that and run this part. What's it retrieving? 1026, laptop, and 56,000. But if I want to send again another value, I need to write this 10, like I need to write the entire command again, right? So how to solve this thing? We can use a placeholder. In prepared statement, we used to write the placeholder, right? What is placeholder means?
Pre-compiled. So that
like first this place will be holded. Once we need to send the value, after sending the value, that result will be coming, right? So in this QR, we have a method. What is that method? Set parameter. Okay. So that set parameter, here we have the argument 0 and that particular value. So I'll just click on this thing. But in prepared statement, that index was starting from 1 onwards. But coming to HQL, the question mark or the placeholder index starts from 0 onwards. And 0, what is the value you have to give? We can give 1026. This value will be the dynamic value, what we get from the JSP or the HTML. In Springs, you can see that directly. Now, run this part. We are getting the same thing, right? Okay. So this is one way of sending the value to the database. Okay. Is it clear? And next thing, instead of a placeholder, I can use a label also. So what's that label you can say? Suppose I'll just say colon some X. So here I'll use a method. What is that method you have? Set parameter itself. Inside this double quote, store a set of values. Directly I'll give the x, and after that x, the value will be 1026. Save this part. Okay. Click on it and try to run. You got the output right again. So this is another way of sending the value by using the one thing is placeholder and the second thing is label, which will pass the values into the Hibernate query at runtime also. Okay. So these are the things we have to understand. For the select command only we have written these things. Right? Now after the label and the placeholder, we need to write the delete command, suppose. So how to write the delete command? Simple thing, delete and the particular table name. Delete from product where the product ID, and whatever the like value you want to pass, you can pass it directly. Okay. So next, instead of writing this entire thing, like removing this entire thing, what I will do, I'll directly write delete from product P where PID equals to :x. I'll keep the same label, and by using the same label, I'll execute it. Product operation and run this part. I got an exception. So not supported for DML operations. Here we need to have a DML operation. Where is the product operation we have? Okay, I'm not selecting right. Actually, I forgot that. These things are not working here because I'm not selecting here right. I'm just deleting it. So deleting in the sense what? Whether it's got deleted or not, we need to check it. So we have a method that is execute update, whose return type is what? Int rs. If rs not equals to 0, what you can write? System dot out dot println record deleted. Next, you just have to check it whether it's working or not. Just click on the product operation, run this thing, record deleted, and you can see it from the top. So that 1026 has been deleted, right? We have the 1027 and 1029 here. Okay. Now the next thing, we need to call the session dot close. Save this part, and after that, what is that last thing we need? We need an update. Okay, and insert. So tomorrow we'll see the update and the insert part directly, where we can't insert directly. We have to use the insert into select command. There's a command in SQL where you can copy one table values into another. Okay, so that we'll see in the HQL also. Like one particular column, like class values, object values, can be copied into another class, or you can say one table to another table. How we are transferring that we can see. Okay, so HQL will be completed. Then the relationships: one to one, one to many, many to one, or many to many. So what are those relationships in Hibernate? And the next part will be the HDFC Bank. And this thing, how to implement the Hibernate query. That we have to see. Instead of JDBC bin class, I'll be using the Hibernate Pojo class, which are similar. Just few modifications will be done. Okay. So if anyone has a recording of the class, Ramesh, can you just upload the recording?
Yeah, okay.
Okay, then. So tomorrow, same time, like HQL I'll complete, and then we'll start the mapping classes.